Hello everyone and welcome again to my How to Education channel. As I promised you last week, today we're gonna continue with the last part of How to Ace Economics, Demand, Supply and Market Equilibrium. After watching this video, don't forget to leave me your feedback. As mentioned briefly last week, when the quantity supplied by the producer is equal to the quantity demanded by the consumer at the current price, we say that the market is at equilibrium. Since the quantity demanded by the consumer is the one produced by the suppliers, the situation seems ideal, and it's unlikely that the market price will change at equilibrium. It tends to be a constant price. When the market is not at equilibrium, it is because either the quantity demanded by the consumer is more or is less than the one produced by the suppliers. Suppose that quantity demanded equals 400 minus 3 times the price minus 2 times the income, and quantity supplied equals 9 times the price minus 100. We need to find Q and P at equilibrium if I is 10 and if I is 70. We also need to say if this good is an inferior good or a normal good. At equilibrium, quantity demanded equals quantity supplied. So, in this case, 400 minus 3 times price minus 2 times income equals 9 times price minus 100. Since income is given to be 10, 400 minus 3 times price minus 2 times 10 equals 9 times price minus 100, which means that price equals 40. Quantity at equilibrium equals quantity demanded, which is also equal to quantity supplied. So 400 minus 3 times 40 minus 2 times 10 equals to 9 times 40 minus 100. Thus, quantity at equilibrium equals 260 units. For number 2, the procedure is the same as number 1, but this time the income is given to be 70. So 400 minus 3 times price minus 2 times 70 equals 9 times price minus 100, which means that price equals 30. Quantity at equilibrium equals quantity demanded, which is equal to quantity supplied. So 400 minus 3 times 30 minus 2 times 70 equals 9 times 30 minus 100. So quantity at equilibrium equals 170 units. Since the income of the consumer increased from 10 to 70, but his or her quantity demanded decreased from 260 to 170, the good is an inferior good whose consumption decreases with an increase in income. When quantity demanded exceeds quantity supplied at the current price, we have what we call excess demand or shortage. That is, suppliers are producing less than what consumers want, and there is a shortage of goods and services produced. When quantity supplied exceeds quantity demanded at the current price, we have what we call excess supply or surplus. That is, suppliers are producing more than what consumers want, and there is a surplus or excess of goods or services produced that might end up unused. Since there will be a shortage of goods and services if quantity demanded exceeds quantity supplied, the goods and services produced will become somewhat more valuable, thus increasing their price. As we know from part 2, when the price of a product in the market rises, quantity demanded for that product falls and quantity supplied rises. In this case, quantity demanded will continue to fall and quantity supplied will continue to increase until an equilibrium is reached, at which quantity demanded and quantity supplied are equal. At prices below 8, quantity demanded exceeds quantity supplied. Let's say that the price is 4. When the price is 4, quantity demanded is 6 and quantity supplied is 2. When excess demand exists, there is a tendency for price to rise. When the price of a product in the market rises, quantity demanded for that product falls and quantity supplied rises. In this case, quantity demanded will continue to fall and quantity supplied will continue to increase until the equilibrium is reached, at which quantity demanded and quantity supplied are equal. Quantity demanded will fall from 6 to 4 units, and quantity supplied will increase from 2 to 4 units. Price will also increase from 4 to 8. The following website is from where I got the graph aside. Since there will be a surplus of goods and services if quantity supplied exceeds quantity demanded, producers will need to find a way to sell all these products and will tend to decrease their market prices. As we know from part 2, when the price of a product in the market falls, quantity demanded for that product rises and quantity supplied falls. In this case, quantity demanded will continue to rise and quantity supplied will continue to fall until an equilibrium is reached, at which quantity demanded and quantity supplied are equal. At prices above 8, quantity supplied exceeds quantity demanded. Let's say that the price is 12. When the price is 12, quantity demanded is 2 and quantity supplied is 6. When excess supply exists, there is a tendency for price to fall. When the price of a product in the market falls, quantity demanded for that product rises and quantity supplied falls. In this case, quantity supplied will continue to fall and quantity demanded will continue to increase until the equilibrium is reached, at which quantity demanded and quantity supplied are equal. Quantity demanded will increase from 2 to 4 units, and quantity supplied will fall from 6 to 4 units. Price will also fall from 12 to 8. The following reference website is from where I got the graph aside. We have previously gone over in the last 2 lectures the factors that affect demand and the factors that affect supply. We also spoke about the movements along the supply or demand curve and the shifts of the supply or of the demand curve. Now, let's try to relate what we previously learned with the market equilibrium concepts. If supply and demand curves shift, the equilibrium price and the equilibrium quantity will change. Let's take a look at some graphical representations of a change in equilibrium. We can see from the graph aside that the original equilibrium point is at the intersection of the supply S and the demand D1. So at price P1 and quantity Q1. Nevertheless, the demand shifted from D1 to D2. Thus, the new equilibrium is at the intersection of the supply S and the demand D2. So, at price P2 and quantity Q2. Thus, when demand shifts to the right, both equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity increase. I found the graph aside on the following reference website. In this case, we can see from the graph that the original equilibrium point is at the intersection of the supply S and the demand D. So at price PE and quantity QE. Nevertheless, the demand shifted from D to D1. Thus, the new equilibrium is at the intersection of the supply S and the demand D1. So at price PE1 and quantity QE1. Thus, when demand shifts to the left, both equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity decrease. I found the graph aside from the following reference website. Now, the original equilibrium point is at the intersection of the supply S and the demand D, so at price PE and quantity QE. Nevertheless, the supply shifted from S to S1. Thus, the new equilibrium is at the intersection of the supply S1 and the demand D, so at price PE1 and quantity QE1. Thus, when supply shifts to the right, equilibrium price decreases, while equilibrium quantity increases. And again, I found the graph aside on the following reference website. The original equilibrium point on the graph is at the intersection of the supply S and the demand D, so at price PE and quantity QE. Nevertheless, the supply shifted from S to S1. Thus, the new equilibrium is at the intersection of the supply S1 and the demand D, so at price PE1 and quantity QE1. Thus, when supply shifts to the left, equilibrium price increases while equilibrium quantity decreases. Don't forget to take a look at the following reference website from where I got the graph aside. This is it from economics for this week, but if you have reached the end of this video, it is because the content is helpful to you somehow. If this is the case, then please give your friends and acquaintances the opportunity to have access to these videos by liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing to this channel. We will be continuing with more economics next Wednesday, but before that, I will see you all on Friday with some finance content. Thank you so much.